That's actually very helpful for us to know. Other things that you don't like so much about this campaign, and I'll mention that, none of us are going to be personally offended in any way whatsoever by anything you say. So please feel free to be brutally honest.
Okay, this may be kind of weird, but the font kind of, this is a really, a really weird one, but the font kind of puts me off. It's kind of very formal, as if it's kind of like these adults are trying to attend to these kids again, and they're trying to like knock into your skull this information that you probably won't care about in 20 years, stuff like that. But obviously it's like a very, very it's very minimal problem that I wouldn't really see being like, oh, I hate the font. The font's really stupid or something like that. But it's definitely something that kind of puts me off, but it really isn't like a make or break for me.
Is it the font do you mean like Times New Roman versus Arial, or do you mean the size or the color or all of the above?
I think it's just the type of font, because like a font obviously evokes if it's like, formal or casual. So I feel like these more formal fonts kind of put me on edge of like, ugh, is the adults trying to think that, they're cool using these fonts that they think are really cool, but they're really not. And it's really weird, like putting off because of that. But I don't really see anyone wrote like really insulting something based on font, but it's just something that kind of like puts me off a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But obviously the colors are fine, and the size matters. Excuse me, a lot. The size makes it significant enough where it's in your face, but it's not too much in your face. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really too irked by that, or about the colors. Really, the colors are fine. I like blues and oranges. They're good complementary colors, so I can't complain about that either.
Okay, and so just to make sure I understand the font part, this comes off as too formal. More like it comes off as too formal in that adults are trying too hard to appeal to youth. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so then a way to improve it would be to use a more casual font.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you by chance have a casual font in mind that could just help give me context?
Oh man, I think I have one in mind, but I can't quite put the name on my tongue. Give me a moment here. I think Calibri is a pretty good one, because it kind of, it's a very good in between font that could very, very much work in the favor of these more. I could definitely see that it's more rounded. It's more it doesn't put off the message it's trying to give. Obviously, it's definitely not as off-putting to me, especially in comparison to Times Roman or Arial, because it reminds me of those essays I have to write and all these assignments that require me. So it kind of brings back these horrific memories. But things with Calibri is definitely something that kind of attracts me and kind of gives that more good physical finish. I mean, obviously I said it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's definitely that cherry on top sort of deal.
Sure. So Calibri is a more approachable font, especially.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else that you don't like or that could be improved?
I don't think so. I like the text messages sort of format going on. I like the images. The images help evoke these certain demographics they're trying to attend to. Obviously, they have the company name, which I'm fine with, because I mean, if you're just getting a pamphlet with no company, you don't know who you got this from, it's obviously going to be very weird. Obviously, this also gives these very good rhetorical questions that might pique your interest, or these very short statements that kind of approach, they help you relate to them really quickly without getting too drawn out. So I like those as well. So the other things are pretty good to me.
Okay. All right. Anything else that could be improved that we haven't touched on? I'm going to phrase it a little bit differently. If you were developing this campaign, is there anything you would do that's different? other than the font size that we talked about?
I mean, I don't really think so. I kind of like this. Like it kind of gives the obviously the communication sort of aspect. Like they can communicate to anyone at any time, even if they're like adults, kids, people who have jobs that take up a significant amount of their time and probably their effort too. Obviously these bright colors I would probably use as well. They help pop out and they help you without having to like mess with the images too much. I also like the prominent appearance of phone numbers. Obviously, I feel like since we obviously have phones, the prominence of those is very important, especially when you're trying to give these communications to these helplines. So obviously those things, obviously the short sentences I like as well, because they help communicate them in a very short amount of time without having to delve into it too deeply, unless you actually delve into like a pamphlet or something and wish to know that information. So I don't think I would make too many changes, honestly. But I'm also haven't created anything of this sort in my life, so I can't really say that I would.
Fair enough. Any thoughts on the images that are used?
I like them a lot, especially these more like sad images. They can kind of relate them like being alone on like a bus. Like you can't really on a bus, you can't really communicate with anyone because you're on various grade levels. So you can't really communicate with anyone unless you're obviously very extroverted and you could sit with anyone and you could still strike up a very good conversation with them. And also bus rides are usually very short. So you can't really communicate with them that well with that as well. So these images give off very specific circumstances, but can be very relatable circumstances as well, like feeling very trapped, but you can all, giving help to somebody that, feels trapped. So you kind of have to lend a helping hand and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So I think the last thing we'll do before we wrap up is I'm interested in having you, I'm going to scroll down through these images one more time. If I haven't made you dizzy already with all the back and forth. And if you could just stop me when you see an image that particularly stands out to you as an ad that is effective. Does that sound okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'll start scrolling slowly and just stop me whenever you're like, this is one of the better ads between all of these options, if any.
Okay, I definitely feel like I'm sorry to stop you immediately, but I feel like this one definitely evokes this one I could definitely dig a lot because it helps promote the message without too much communication. You can help lend a hand by communicating to somebody, even if it's like asking a question or trying to communicate with them or trying to be friendly, like, stuff like that. But this picture helps, track like, oh, I kind of feel this sometimes. So maybe I can use this information to my advantage to where I can help better myself. Mm-hmm. So that picture definitely, pokes out to me. Also, that first image with the girl with that laptop and her phone, that one, well, to me particular, that one I didn't want to say as much because that's more like to me specifically as like a teenager. So it's not like a general thing, but it gives me, you can see it's like at late at night and they have their phone. So it's kind of giving this sort of feeling of being, tempted to use technology you don't want to. There's so many factors. Yeah, that one.
Oh, this one. Okay. All right.
Yep. There's so many factors you can see come to play that help and induce this anxiety and sort of feeling of being very stressed. You have the temptation of using technology when you're not supposed to. You have, you're working at night. So it's, you're taking away from maybe your sleep schedule or something like that. So these many factors help contribute, and it evokes all these within just the one simple image. So it definitely helps communicate that, are you okay? With these multiple new problems that might happen when they're trying to, well, you know, tackle these crises with all this anxiety